I'm having a discussion in the beginning about when, where, and how do we learn to love, in light of this week with a lot of the drama and hurt that's floating around with the anti-racial violence that's happened in Charlottesville, and also, the racial violence, and also the ideas that are flying around the internet of what to do with hate. So one of the things that I share about hate is how do you meet hate? How do you manage hate? Hate is a very powerful, ancient emotion. So any of you who might be joining, if you've heard of these ancient emotions, hate, lust, jealousy, anger's not just an ancient emotion. I think we're pretty familiar with it. But things like lust and betrayal, they're pretty primal emotions. So handling these is a part of love. Managing them is a part of love. Accepting them is a part of love. Not expecting them to go away, because they can't go away because they're part of humanity. And racism and hate that comes from racism is a part of humanity as well. So there is research about, are humans endemically racist? Are we born that way? And I don't think we're born necessarily racist, but we are born as tribal creatures. And as being part of a tribe, you learn to support, protect your tribe. So that can lead to being threatened or feeling like your identity is threatened or your life is threatened. And we don't have to look far around the planet to see actual people, neighborhoods threatened. It's just, I think, in the US, very frightening when you actually see it physically threatened in that way, but it's happening all over the planet. So what is our opportunity in these times when we're dealing with hate in a public way? We could panic, we could judge, we could start debates about what to do, and they're all really good. I'm not really interested in, on my channel here, about a political discussion about what to do, but those discussions are happening. And when we're looking at, my contribution is, how do we manage hate? How do we manage violent tendencies of humanity, because they're part of humanity? And how do we manage that on a personal level? So I'm going to ask that politics be left out of this discussion. Not that I don't want people to share their views on it, but it's not the entry point of how, when, and where do we learn to love. What I'm suggesting, because transformed relationships is about a powerful transformation of what love can be. What that suggests is that when hate comes up, we can create a different response to it, or a better response. Yes, and that includes a social response, but if you're drawn to my channel or to any of my stuff, usually you do self-work, and there is an awareness in some communities that the more you work on your inner world, your inner hatred, or your inner relationship to your hatred, because everybody's got their own story, everybody belongs to different tribes, but it's when you start to work on your inner self, that's when our society can shift. It just looks really bad right now because we're at this turning point in society as well. But when society's at a turning point, at the individual level and at the group level, at the tribal level, it's the time to go, where am I inside holding on to something that is destructive, that's not going to move me forward and may move my community forward or my friends forward. Hey, Sylvia. Hey, sister. So I'm still getting used to this chat option. And if you've got any things to add or comments, I'm more than open to those comments. I was just sharing how when there's hate in the world, it's an opportunity for us to look inside and see how we can respond to hate. Hi. And when we're responding to hate, it doesn't mean that you have to be a saint or a guru or really zen about it all. It's really an exploration. It's an investigation of hate inside of you. But it doesn't mean you have to be all sort of soft and fluffy about it all. I know, and I'm going to share some of my journeys with hate, my personal journey, because as a person dealing with hate that's around me and always aware that, oh, well, that's triggering something in me, or what awareness can I bring to the situation? I draw on my experiences in life. And all humans do this. You know, when we're kids, we don't have life experiences, or if we have a bad experience, we remember that, and then we use that as a reference point, which isn't always great. But in my journey with hate, in my life, I actually learnt a lot because my family were very passionate. They still are. And today I was thinking I was going to share my journey with hate through the way my mother was treated, and not so much just how she was treated, but how I dealt with racism and someone who was from a different ethnic background not being understood. So if anyone has those stories as well, if you've been through racism, or you've been in a situation where you're judged, or you've been in a situation you really hate somebody for the way they're treating you, these are really powerful moments in our lives, moments where you can actually learn, hey, maybe I can change the way I am here. I don't have to always be someone who's responding from anger. I don't have to respond from a place of powerlessness. I can respond from a place of, I can do something here. I can create something here. So hi to Melissa. Thanks for joining. So today's topic on where, when, and how do we learn to love. I'm going to share an example about racism that my mum experienced, and my mum's deceased, so I can talk about her because we have the best relationship. I talk to her and she's dead, and you know, if she answers back, it's usually through a dream or something nice that happens in my life, or she, you know, wants me to get some nurturing. She usually makes me eat cookies, which is really nice. Sylvia knows she makes me eat ice cream sometimes, but more recently it's cookies because we used to eat cookies together. But anyway, when my mum was growing up, she was, not when my mum was growing up. Fast forward, my mum was an immigrant from Sicily in Australia. And when she was in her 50s, early 50s, she got diagnosed with cancer. I miss you too, Melissa. I feel your heart though. So when my mum first got diagnosed with cancer, they didn't actually recognize it. And the doctors actually dismissed her. They were all men, different ethnic backgrounds. And because in Australia we have a pretty mixed crowd, but they misdiagnosed her until unfortunately she, right at the last minute, they said, it's a very aggressive cancer and you've got 8 months to live. Hi, thanks to those joining. So I'm sharing about racism as my mum experienced it and how I dealt with hate and feelings of ancient emotions which are really powerful. So when Mum was misdiagnosed, I was 20-something, 21, young, and I didn't know, hi Sarah, hi Majid, I didn't know how to stand up to the doctors because I knew what my mum was experiencing was real, and I knew it was going to kill her if it wasn't treated right. But they just weren't listening to her because she spoke with an accent, she spoke really quick, she was really passionate. And one doctor actually said that she was a nervous housewife and it was all in her mind. This was at the beginning stages. So fast forward, when finally it was diagnosed for what she knew it was and what I knew it was, and it was too late for her to get the real help to save her life, which could have happened perhaps, we don't know. After she passed and watching her, having to face that she had, in about a 3-year period, real awareness that something should have happened, but these doctors that saw her as this ethnic woman that didn't know very much, they actually critically affected her life. And that's what we're working through today as well in the US. We're seeing it, but it's globally. People are saying, this racism thing, this is now affecting my life. I can't walk down the street without being edgy or scared that someone's going to attack me just because they're aggressive or because they feel crap. They're not able to deal with the feelings of hatred or other uncomfortable feelings inside. So after Mum died, I started to feel a lot of hatred towards certain hospital environments, certainly a certain class of doctors in Australia, they call them specialists. So I hated that there was this group that had authority to tell someone, yeah, Sarah's saying that she's having issues with doctors listening to you. And this is a similar thing with anytime you experience hatred or misunderstanding, all these feelings of people not getting your position, it's really forcing you on the individual level here to realize what might be violated. Anger and hate are really good at making you clearer about what you stand for. Now, the go-to response, because Mum died and I was in grief, we thought about doing something aggressive, but we were too in grief and shock. And I thought about that at the time. Why did I suppress my hate? Because I was so depressed. Wouldn't I have been, more vindicated or somehow liberated from what happened if I took action? But the truth was, it wasn't my role to do that. My role dealing with hate was to go inside and see where I suppressed it or suppressed certain feelings in me. So I had a really great chance to see through my mother's drastic loss what was inside of me, what I felt ripped off about, what I wasn't able to express, and also how to deal with racism in a country where women of a certain ethnic background weren't given respect. Yeah, so Sarah's just saying she gets anxiety now every time that she has to go to hospitals, because hospitals are a place where you may not feel like you're going to be treated with respect. So even though we might be experiencing racism as a cultural experience globally, because it's not just the USA, we're really aware of it now because of the incident in Charlottesville, I think what's happening in our world is that we're starting to see how are we supposed to treat human beings. And if I have hatred inside of me, because I have hatred, it's part of what I am sometimes. And anyway, my family's passionate Sicilian. we have to have these excessive emotions. It's part of our being in a way. It doesn't mean I have to be angry about it, but I do need to have awareness when I'm feeling that way, how to manage my feelings And also not like when my mum died, go into depression and suppress them or try to run away from them, which I did for a long time. And now I'm looking at, too, how to just say, what am I feeling, without taking it out on the internet or complaining, or because complaining is sort of like a distraction from what you're feeling inside. It's easy for us to complain. It could be great for me. And I think I did it for a long time after my mum passed. I complained about special doctors who come from a certain class in society that think ethnic women don't know better. I could say that. I could get angry and comment like that. But I'm able to go to my specialist now because I do have a tendency of cancer in the family. So I do have to go to specialists for checkups. And I can joke. I got to the point where I can joke with my specialist. He still is a bit distant from me, but I kind of like that because he doesn't have to, I don't have the emotion that I had with my mum basically 20 years later. Yeah, so what I'd like to hear from people is when we're dealing, my position is that when we're dealing with hate, anger, even anxiety, like you're saying, Sarah, these are chances for us to learn to love. Often we focus on, oh my God, I'm having, like, I can't cope with this. I'm having this intense emotion. I don't know what to do. I want to kill someone. I want to hit someone. Or I don't even want to hit someone. I'm just so angry. So, we've got some emotions now. So what I would like to know is, from people is, what do you feel when you have intense emotions? What do you feel is something that you can do to actually learn how to love better? Is it something that you even think about when you have an intense emotion? Or what's your usual go-to response if something intense is coming up? Like, is that something that you're uncomfortable talking about? Because these emotions like anger, hate, they're part of humanity, and they have been from the beginning of tribal society. But we often, because of the way we're raised through school and our culture and our spiritual traditions, we're raised that don't get angry, don't express anger, or you have to speak polite, you have to be respectful. So I'm just wondering if people are experiencing situations where maybe you're struggling with a certain emotion and you don't know actually how to handle that emotion or what to do. Yeah, Sarah's mentioned that max dose of Xanax, so to ignore the feelings. Well, it's interesting in America, or maybe not that interesting, but the opioid epidemic in America is an example of how our cultures, and it's not just USA, all cultures in some ways try to avoid some of these ancient emotions. Ancient emotions have been hanging around since tribal society. That's just how they, Aboriginal people, they have anger, they deal with it. I'll share an example actually of Aboriginal tribes, because I'm not an expert on Aboriginal tribes, but because I grew up in Australia, I know about some of their traditions, and I apologise if I'm not doing the best description of what they do. But for example, things like when a guy gets jealous of his woman, he can get incredible rage. So I think Aboriginal cultures partner with one partner, but like a lot of us, it's not really easy to handle if the person that you're in love with or you're partnered with gets flirted with by somebody else. So if an Aboriginal guy gets intense jealousy or feels somebody's coming onto my woman and is angry, one of their strategies has been, I don't know how much they do it now, but one of their strategies is the women of the tribe will surround the man to fully experience his anger, to just let out all the anger and they just surround the man and send him just support. You know, they don't try to convert him or change him. They just sort of surround him to go, it's okay to have your emotion, have it, and then it's gone. Yeah, Melissa's shared a really good one about jealousy, because I was really jealous. I still am, but I acknowledge it now so it doesn't come up to get my attention. So Melissa's mentioned that whenever she starts a new relationship, she notices she gets jealous, and then she gets angry that she's jealous and takes it out of her partner. I love that one. I used to do that too, a lot of passive aggressive stuff. And one of the things I learned was, over many years, didn't happen in that first couple of relationships where I'd still be very passive aggressive and take it out of my partner. But I learned to just tell my partner, you know, hey, I'm very possessive with my partners. So if you're interested in someone, don't tell me. Or as one of my other friends has said to her husband, if you have an affair with anyone, I'll kill you. Like, you just acknowledge that you've got this jealous part of you, and at least then you can actually talk about it with your partner, make jokes about it, let them know that you're sensitive. And I've seen other girlfriends do this with their partners, like tell them, you know, you have to make me feel like I'm your woman, because that's how I am. I need to have you give me all the right signs that I'm number one. And some men, so Melissa's saying, how do you release the jealousy? I think one of the strategies is what I've mentioned about just verbalizing it can release a lot of the trying to keep it down and not talk about it, and then doing something passive aggressive. Tell your partner, you know, I'm feeling like you might be interested in someone and I don't like that because I'm jealous. Own it. And if it's the thing with jealousy that's also really good is to go inside your heart and ask, when you're feeling calm and connected, you know, where does this actual jealousy come from? Where did it start? Was it from when I was a kid? Was it from something that happened as a teenager? There's these periods of life where jealousy can come in. If you're a child, sometimes you won't even remember. If you're a teenager, you might actually remember. Sometimes you had an experience where somebody cheated on you, or they were dating you and then they changed or no longer talk to you anymore or something, and then you see them with someone else, and that makes sense why your emotional body remembers to do it, remembers what the trigger. If your partner continues to look outside the relationship and upset you with jealousy, you can start to ask the partner to really, you can ask them to change the behavior, or why are they doing that? Because that's good. But ultimately, anytime our partner triggers us, there's something inside of us, our spirit, our heart, our past hurts, that's trying to get healed. I call it healed. It's not always healed. Sometimes it's just, you need to see it. You need to see, you know, maybe I felt really insecure as a teenager and other people were not giving me the attention that I wanted, and I made a judgment that any time my boyfriend or girlfriend looks outside, looks at another man or woman or a girl or boy, they don't like me. It could be something that your inner consciousness is trying to actually get you to look at your past and say, that really hurt me. I wish I could just let go of that feeling. And letting go of feelings can be unique to each person. So Melissa, that's something that you can actually look at with, you know, how do I stop holding on to the feeling that somebody's going to do something to me. Yeah, baggage needs to be addressed, Sarah's saying. So Melissa's sharing something else about jealousy or your partner provoking you. If they kind of know you've got an insecurity. So whenever we have an insecurity, and I speak from, I grew up really shy and really so insecure. It's hilarious who I am today. It's so different. So I lived in insecurity most of my life up until about 38. And I still have insecure feelings, but I don't live in insecurity. When you're like that, even if it's only on one part of your life, like relationships, you will attract a partner that's going to keep on bringing that up for you. So Melissa's shared that sometimes people do things on purpose to trigger you. And I know someone who does that. He compulsively goes looking at, I'll say it, the porn word, and he knows that it's something that really upsets his partner. But he kind of does it because he's got something that he needs to fulfill, but he also does it because it's something that his partner is really triggered by. So sometimes you will find that relationships, even though this person might love you, and I really mean that, they might love you, they're still going to trigger your stuff because relationships are for all of that stuff to come up. And I know it's awful and it doesn't feel good, but it's a chance to go in, where am I feeling like I have no power here? Oh, this person is in charge of whether I feel good or confident today. Oh, my partner makes me feel lovable or sexy, or no, hell no. So there's always a reason for partners to push your buttons. It's kind of their job. And I know we think that relationships are supposed to be loving and kind, and they are, but unconsciously your partner will push your buttons because it's the closest relationship after your parents, basically. So you had your parents, which is always they're always pushing your buttons. So then your partner becomes the next person to push. So if I'm going back to what Melissa shared about someone intentionally pushing your buttons, because that connects to trolling or comments on the internet where people may feel like you feel vulnerable, and they'll try and you'll say a comment which is just your opinion. And that's a really good thing about the USA, that people have that freedom. But then they'll feel something in what you said that you might have an issue about, or an attachment about, or a feeling about, an emotion. And then they might actually try to provoke it. This is one of the other things I've noticed about intense emotions. We're not good, whether it's on the internet or in our personal relationships, we're not good at explosions of emotion. We're good if it's like joy or sex or something like that. But if someone's really intensely having an anger or a moment, we tend to freak out. And also we try to maybe not be the one contributing to that. Or if we're on the internet, sometimes we almost feel compelled to push further to provoke that. So I think that's one of the things that we're learning through the internet now, that provoking people doesn't help their emotion, doesn't help change their emotion. It doesn't help get them into any self-reflection, like I'm sharing with you, to go and look inside and start to connect. So how can, when we can learn to love in some simple strategies, like, well, maybe I won't reply to the person right now. Maybe like the Aboriginal women surrounding the guy having his moment, maybe I'll just sit here and experience the space they're in right now. Or maybe I'll just sit and feel what's inside of me right now, instead of having an immediate reaction back to the person. Or instead of coming from guilt and trying to make the person feel better and there, it's okay, don't worry, calm down. So that's a couple of the moments I think we're getting to learn as a society to be more, I don't think it's tolerant even, I think it's just patient, rather than jumping onto something and trying to give space for people to feel what they're feeling. And then after that, if you're in an intimate relationship or a partnership or a mother and daughter relationship, you can actually start to ask questions. Just, well, what makes you feel that way? But you've got to give the person space. I've talked about this on some of my other videos about anger. Anger's like a rush of energy. And if it doesn't fully come out of the body, it might try to go somewhere else. It might go down, like mine went down when I had depression. It went into my body, so I suppressed myself and I had depression for a bit. And if it doesn't do that, it might come out, like Melissa's saying, like you'll take it out on your partner through passive aggressive, or you might go to sleep, you might just avoid things. And then it comes back if you're in an intimate relationship. Yeah, isolating yourself, you can isolate yourself. So I've found that's a big one with, if we as a culture don't have ways in our personal relationships for people to express anger, what happens is our society starts to create really angry people. And that's one of the things I saw on the internet, why are these young men, whether it's ISIS or alternative rights, or there's a lot of other angry young men. They don't have to be part of a militant active hate group. Why are they having this? And it's because some of this primal stuff, anger, hate, jealousy, tribal threat, survival of your identity, doesn't have a space to be expressed. And I'm not saying that we have to provide that for those young men, but I would suggest, how can we do it in our personal relationships? Because then it won't ripple out into society as much. Sarah said, good luck with all your relationships. Bless you all. So that's, thanks, Sarah. Bye. That's all I'm going to share for today on the topic. The video will post, and you can keep leaving topic or comments there. And thank you to Melissa for sharing your experience. And I hope the blood pressure, well, not hope, but I'll send you a bit of energy for that blood pressure to find its way to move out, because that's an example of emotions that are out of balance. So blood pressure is about balance. But also for people like myself and Melissa, when we're expressing emotions, it's also trust that any emotions that are effusive or explosive, they're only there for a period of time, short period of time, and they go. So after the release of the emotion, it's gone. It'll go. And maybe for some people you have to do it a lot, but be aware that you're not that emotion. It will go. And that will help to see different ways to have fun, how to be part of enjoying who you are, even if you are jealous, passionate, and finding those positive words that also represent the strong emotion that you have inside of you. Thanks everyone for coming along today, and next Wednesday, based on the topic comments, I'll look at the next video and also what's going on in our world.